Welcome to the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel, powered by InsideTexas.com. I'm Joe Cook, got Justin Wells, got Coach Dub. We're here to talk recruiting, and the cycle's started now. We got plenty to talk about, especially after the Longhorns hosted their first big junior day. But we have some other notes on some other classes that you're going to want to know as well. So make sure, stick around, like this video. If you haven't yet, subscribe to the channel. We're bringing it daily. With all the different, from all angles here on Inside Texas. Today, like I said, we'll go over all the junior day, talk about some of the big prospects who made it into Austin to go see the Longhorn football program. We'll take some questions. But first, Justin, we got to start with a little bit of transfer portal info. One of the big needs for this cycle for the Longhorns is defensive tackle. They've already got Travis Shaw. They've already got Cole Brevard. And it looks like they hosted Ohio State transfer defensive tackle Hero Canoe over the weekend, or at least on Sunday. Seems like a decision could be imminent. What's going on with the transfer defensive tackle?
Yes. So here's the latest. He took a quick trip on Sunday, came out, headed to Florida on Monday, went and saw those guys. Now today he's at Georgia. Kirby Smart's actually not there. He's on the road in South Carolina, but he is flying in this afternoon just to see Canoe, just to be able to talk to him. And a decision the big thing here is a decision has to be made within like the next 24 hours because a lot of these schools have cutoff dates when the kids can enroll and still be eligible. Plus, Hero has a little bit of visa issues. He's got to make sure he's at a certain school to make sure he gets all his eligibility stuff here, being in the States. And so Georgia, from what I was told this morning, Georgia's going to make a hard push. They really need him. They feel like they need him for depth. Obviously, Texas did the same thing. They need him for depth too. He's a little light in the britches considering what Texas is usually putting down there on the defensive line, but he's still 300 pounds. He's still a good prospect, and he's still a guy that Ohio State was kind of penciling in a major role in 2025. And so it's going to be interesting to see, check in at InsideTexas.com. We'll probably have another update here in just a bit because I want to know how it's going to go after this Georgia visit. I think Georgia – there's also some ties to the program for Georgia that line up with Canoe. And so this one, it's one of those things where Texas shot their shot. And if he can get out of Athens, I think Texas might actually have a chance to sign him. But I don't know if they're going to let him out of Athens. And Kirby's supposed to be there by this afternoon to sell him.
I looked up some data on him. He played a lot in the B gap for Ohio State. Didn't see a ton of snaps, but he was still someone who they brought around, put into the game. Actually had a tackle against Texas in the Cotton Bowl. Like you mentioned, you talked about visa issues. It's, let's keep this apolitical. When you're a student, when you're a foreign student, you have to tell the United States why you're in the country. Yeah. And so if you're not enrolled in a school, the United States is going to be like, what's going on here? So he's got to enroll in a school. That'll clear up any visa stuff. And like Justin, you said, he's got, the 12th class day thing to take care of. So decision should be coming forward probably this week because a lot of schools are having their 12th class day soon. Anything else, Coach? I know we had talked about AJ Tuitele a little bit. Was wondering, it doesn't seem like he made it into campus this weekend. Have you heard anything? Seems like it's trending towards the West Coast.
Yeah, man. Most time he had been in Vegas. Sometimes they tend to stick close to the West Coast. But talking to people at UNLV, they didn't have a direction which way he may go. They would love to land him, right? Because you don't get that kind of a high-star recruit most time at UNLV. So we'll see where he ends up, but he could stay close to home in West Texas. Western part of the United States, not West Texas. I apologize. That's the Texas in me.
Got a few good questions. And first one, we can kind of talk about this from the very top, very macro point of view from our guy, Brett Nelson. Is there another top 3 class incoming for the Longhorns?
It's January. It's January, Brett. We love you, man, but man, I have no clue. If Sark keeps doing what he does, if Texas keeps winning, yeah, a top 3 class is probably in the works. And they really have the foundation. When you get your 5-star quarterback in Diabell, like that's the the foundation you need for every class. But man, is it going to be top 3? That is something you need to ask us in June, and then maybe again in August, and definitely ask us in December, because we'll know for sure in December. But really, I think if Texas is the status quo, they're really, let me tell you something, they are in with a lot of really good prospects. Yeah. We've talked about this a few times on shows before. This 2026 cycle is going to be fun to cover, because a lot of these kids are going to want to go to Texas. And what we're going to have to figure out is which ones Texas actually wants to take in this particular class, because they're going to be a little bit more picky. They already are picky. And Sonny has a good question here too, which I kind of want an example of what Sonny's talking about.
Yeah.
So maybe he can help us out. But for a top 3 class, my man, it is still January. We're still coming off junior day. That is really, really hard to say. I think from a number standpoint, it's going to be probably 24 or 25. That would put them in the top 3 range. But, buddy, it is just super early to have anything on that.
Just kind of looking, we've mentioned this time and time again, the way to really elevate your class in the ranking is by 5 stars and top 50 guys, just because they weigh more in the math. And I'm just looking through some of the guys they've offered. You've already got Dia Bell, who's going to end up being a 5-star, already is a 5-star in the On3 industry ranking. Every running back offer going to be a top 200 guy. So you've got that going for you. Not worried about wide receiver with Texas, especially when you have guys like Caden Finley, Jabari Mack. I know Jaden Lott has corner upside, but still a good receiver as well. We'll talk more about him later, and they're in good position with
that's a potential 5-star.
Right. Yeah. Mark Bowman's up there. Like, basically, and then you go – that's not even thinking about offensive
John Turntime.
Ojo, like –
Damian Winfield is going to play like a 5-star, and his ranking is going to increase too. You got to stack 5 stars, like Joe was talking about. Yep. Stack them like dollar bills, man. That's what you have to do. And listen, Texas is actually in a great position to do just that, coming off this number 1 class in 25.
Agreed.
So I do want to get – you mentioned it, Justin, before we talk about some individual players.
Yeah.
Why did Sark delay taking the commitment of a sure thing, no doubt recruit? I'll do a little devil's advocate. They could be no doubt on our end from what we know.
Exactly.
But there could be stuff, like NIL demands, could be maybe he's missing 2 toes. It could be something that realistic.
His agent steers him in a different direction.
Yeah, it could be something that realistic to that far-fetched. But I also feel like they don't delay in too much. Like, think about Lance Jackson. That came together like that, and they said
Dia Bell
happening
like that.
Yeah.
So I feel like there are some guys that they tried to evaluate a little bit more, and that term has a lot of flexibility in modern college football. Though we're still evaluating you.
It does. But
at the same time, like I'd like to see if you have any names in mind in the comments, Sonny. But
yeah, if Sonny's got a couple guys, we will definitely talk about it. Now, listen, and Joe's right. Look, Sark does take his time. He is the anti-Mac Brown. And I think Texas fans just have to get used to that. Hey, Mac used to have these classes sealed up before camp in August. He didn't want to do any recruiting during the season. It's kind of funny now if you think about it in terms of 2025. Mac was a little lazy in a lot of these 2000 cycles. But my man, when you're fishing in the big pond of Texas and getting whoever you want, that comes with the territory. Sark is the opposite. Sark really likes to be thorough in these evaluations. Now, the first 2 classes, I don't think he took his time at all. I think he was trying to fill in spots and get in guys. But in the last 2 cycles, maybe even 3 classes, the culture has been very, very important to who they take. And so what a fan might think is a sure thing, no doubter, does he actually have the culture aspect, the physical attributes? Yes, but is he a mental evaluation as well? Like, you've got to consider all of those different deals. And so a sure thing, no doubt, Sark doesn't turn that down. They don't delay the commitments of the sure thing, no doubt guys. If there literally are a sure thing, no doubter on Texas big board, they will take you today. They'll take you in 10 minutes, and then they'll take you again tomorrow. Like they won't delay the big time talents. They won't delay guys at the top of their board. If there's guys in the middle and they haven't set the floor for that position per se in that class, they might delay. They might tell you to pump the brakes a little bit. They might say, hey, why don't we wait until come this spring to come watch spring ball? Why don't we wait till official visits in June so your parents can be here? Sark really likes to make sure the parents are there. And a lot of that, I think you get a lot of that push actually in June, in junior day, kind of to figure out where you're at. So it's a good question, Sonny, because I think most fans feel like in the last few junior days, Texas just leaves without a commitment and they don't really push for anybody. It's just because Sark is particular. He wants a certain type of player. Listen, 20 of those 2025 guys are enrolled now. And you don't get that when you take kids way too early, when you don't flush them out and do a thorough vetting process. Sometimes things happen. They want guys that are driven, self-motivated, and focused, that are graduated from college, that want to get that career started early. They want to get to Austin early. And so they don't turn down sure thing, no doubters. They don't delay it. The only people they delay are maybe kids a little bit lower on the board that they haven't necessarily set the floor for just yet.
I feel like a good example of that may have been Dalen McCutcheon with how wide receivers shook out. And Dalen McCutcheon.
Right. You know what? That's a great example.
So let's go ahead and dive into the 2026 class. And, you know, Charlie, you were able to get a lot of great takeaways, a lot of great insight on some of the big humans in there on Saturday. A lot of the top. This is a really strong offensive line class within the state of Texas. And I know who you have at number one. But number two might be Felix Ojo, and you got some news from him.
Yeah, definitely. Man, I was so glad to see him, show up on junior day. I think everybody thought maybe he wasn't going to show, and that he was the last guy, and the bus took him over to the campus. But man, Felix I feel like he's gotten a lot taller from last time I seen him in football season. But he had a great visit. He said he feels like Texas really wants him in the class. And it's always great to feel wanted, right? But going around, being inside the building, seeing the culture, talking to current players, right? It's one thing to hear Coach Kyle Flood's message, but when the players back that up and they're not being coached or coerced to say it, he can tell it's real. And that stood out amongst him and a lot of other recruits who were on campus. And so the message from Coach Flood to the current players is all the same. They're all in there working together trying to win a championship. And that's something he wants to be a part of. He loves that. He wants to come in and compete and prove he's the best, and he doesn't mind competition. And he can tell that the close-knit family group that they have on campus, everybody's about winning, and he wants to be a part of a culture like that. And so I think Texas stands in a great spot with Felix Ojo. I really, really do. I know mom and dad loved it. Even the little brother loved it.
Charlie, did you not notice with Felix? Remember, he came last summer for that camp, that junior in June, that elite camp type deal, and competed. And I can't remember if he was offered then or maybe a little bit before that visit. But remember how quiet he was. Yeah. Remember how he was kind of hesitant, a little apprehensive. Man, that kid has come out of his shell. You talk about a different kid. That's what I noticed about him on Saturday. Like we saw the frame. Now the mind is catching up to the frame, and it's like, that's what a 5-star looks like. That's what we call a no doubt or sure thing that Sark would say, come on board. If Felix Ojo called those guys right now, Sark would say, welcome. He would do it. Dave Chappelle, Rick James style. Come. There would be no hesitancy or delay. I love that Felix Ojo, we're seeing him start to grow out of his shell. The more confident that kid gets, the closer to a top 10 NFL draft pick. But one day that kid becomes.
Definitely.
He's already set his official visit date. It looks like Michigan and Ohio State are also in on that one. But Charlie, we got to keep talking offensive line. And you were able to post something today and also talk to someone not as highly ranked as maybe people would expect for him to be, but a big human, someone Kyle Flood seems very interested in, and is from a place that's been good to Texas in the past, in Euless Trinity. Yeah,
Mr. Katoa, look, this kid is serious and all about football, right? I mean,
the whole family.
The whole family is, and the whole family didn't get to show up. Now, some families showed up. He said it's supposed to be more. Like, they travel in bunches. Like, they're serious. Yes. They all want to come in and get information, but they had a game plan. They wanted him to go in and talk to the strength and conditioning staff. Like, we can go see the campus. That's cool. I want to go talk to the strength and conditioning staff. How am I going to be developed? I want to talk to current players, right? And so he had a great trip, and he got all his questions answered by Coach Kyle Flood and even some current players. So he raved about how to do everything with speed in the program, and he loved that. But his ranking does not match who he is on film. He mauls people. He lines up at tight end. He lines up at tackle. He lines up at guard. He's just mauling people. He's a big kid who can move. And I believe his ranking is going to change. But Mr. Katoa, I love him. That's the guy you want on the field. You want to run behind him in the fourth quarter. Or if you want a brawl on 6th Street, you take him with you too. Like, that's what kind of kid he is, man. He's just a big human who can move. And he's aggressive and he's mean.
Justin, it kind of seems like there's a ideal offensive line class starting to take shape. The numbers could be where, I think we've talked plenty on this about how even in the spring window, there's only 5 guys on the field. Yeah. You kind of play 6, maybe 7 in a year, but there's 12 more guys who are just sitting there, and it's a development position, but the numbers dictate that Texas is probably going to see a guy choose to depart just based off basic math. In the spring window. So how big do you see this class going? And then, where might Katoa and Ojo, I know there's another spot fully reserved until signing day for John Turntine. Like, where might you see this offensive line class heading toward?
I think this offensive line class is headed towards tackle heavy 2026. Look, they didn't really take one in 2025. Nick Brooks is not a tackle. He may play some, but that's just maybe he stayed at a Holiday Inn. He is not an offensive tackle. He is a guard, and they'll figure that out. He's working with Trevor Gooseby right now, and so that he's trying to mirror that kid. But they really didn't take a tackle. Let's just be honest. In the 2025 cycle, and there wasn't a lot to choose. I mean, there were some big names. Don't get me twisted. Haywood and Rogers and Fasusi. They just didn't get those guys. They will go heavy tackle. And I think John Turntine, Felix Ojo, and Zayden Crippen are like the top 3 of those tackles. And I think Max Wright is right in that conversation as well. Like, to me, Max and Zayden, there's no difference. I think, and the beauty of those two is I think they're also flexible enough to slide inside if need be. Mm-hmm. And you're talking about a kid in Max who's 6'7", 6'8", has an unbelievable frame. And then you got Zayden, who just added his 47th offer before he got to junior day on Saturday. And so I think it's going to be tackle heavy. I think Katoa is your stereotypical interior guy that they would love. I think that guy is penciled in on their big board is coming in as I think the numbers are probably going to be 5, possibly 6, because like Joe actually set this up well. They're going to lose a couple guys after the spring window. A couple of linemen that have been in the program for a while that just haven't developed as quickly, and maybe they get a chance to go somewhere else to get on the field a little bit sooner because there's going to be a lot of shuffling when it comes to that this spring. They're going to let them battle it out and figure out who they can rely on next season. And so this class is going to be 5 or 6 deep. There's going to be at least 3 tackles. I could see 4 with one of those guys being like a swing tackle guard type that could do a little bit of both, like a Wright, like a Crippen, somebody like that. And then Evers, listen, Drew Evers, I didn't really envision him in this class, but Texas, they are really pushing for this kid. He could be an ideal center at the next level. And so he's a guy that you got to watch, and he's got an unbelievable frame. He looks like a bigger version of Daniel Cruz. And so that's a guy that can fit in that window too. And so I think from an O-line standpoint, and Charlie can add anything if he needs to, I think it's 5 or 6. I think it's going to be tackle heavy. They're still going out of state looking at options. I know there's guys they like in Florida and Ohio and California, but really in 2026 and 2027 classes, they don't need to go far at all for offensive tackles. It is ridiculously deep. Not just this cycle. I'm talking about next cycle. Right. We saw 2 of them on campus Saturday. Kennedy Brown. Kennedy Brown looks like a college football player today, 15-year-old out of Humble Kingwood. Damarian Johnson, we call him Big Juice. Yeah. That's the 6'6", 310 kid out of Tyler Legacy here in East Texas. Tackles are abundant in Texas, and there's more. There's even more coming up, and so they don't need to go too far out. I think it's 5 or 6, tackle heavy for sure for 2026. I just can't wait to see which is the first domino to drop.
Sure, that's good.
Should be good. Before we keep going, got to show some love to our sponsor, and that is Game Time. If you want to go to the Super Bowl, you can put in a down payment on a car for the same price, but you can figure out what that price is. Unlike the car dealership, They give you a price. They tell you what it is. They bring you the paperwork, and then they're like, oh, here we go. We got another 1,000. We got another 500. You got to go through this. Not on Game Time. If you want to spend the big bucks at the best price to go to the Super Bowl, you will find out what you'll be paying when you press submit with the Game Time app and using their all-in pricing. And they got more than that. I looked it up. AEW is coming to the Cedar Park Center, or excuse me, the HEB Center in Cedar Park. That is a little bit of a less expensive ticket. You can get tickets to that. All-in pricing shows the view you will have to see. I don't even know who's in AEW, but I like the art of the squared circle. Either way, make sure you go to Game Time. Use the promo code ON3. Hey, $20 off your first purchase, $20 off your Super Bowl ticket. It helps. Use that promo code ON3 on the Game Time app or at Game Time CO. Terms apply. Justin, we got some help. What time is it?
It is game time for everyone except the Dallas Cowboys. Matthew Hutchinson just stuck a stake to my heart. The Dallas Cowboys do not apply. But if you want to go see the Chiefs and the Eagles, the two best teams in the NFL this season, I'm looking forward to that game. Yeah. Game Time is the app, guys. We've used that already. It really is as good as Joe talks about. And even though the Cowboys will have no idea of anything in playoffs in the near future, go see Mahomes. Go see the battle of White House and Channelview.
Yeah,
Part 2. Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes. And go watch. Actually, you're going to go watch the Chiefs. They're going to accomplish history. They're going to win their third Super Bowl in a row. And the Eagles are going to wind up losing their 4th out of 5 tries. And so I'm looking forward to that as well. And Game Time's the app to use.
To keep on going, we got a lot more to get to from the Junior Day. We got to talk a little bit about some skill position guys. And let's go ahead and start with the quarterback. We got to hit Dia Bell. Always good to have your quarterback back on campus. He's obviously going to continue to be recruited by everybody. Georgia made a call. I think Alabama did too, LSU. But Texas is still recruiting him, making sure he knows he's number one in the fold. This isn't meant to say like there's any risk. But you have to recruit your guys. Yes. But the good thing is Dia Bell gets to come back and recruit at Texas. Yeah. And Justin, I think you got to catch up to him. With him, what were some of the things that Texas 2026 quarterback was able to accomplish over the weekend?
We talked to him beforehand going in, and he arrived on Friday evening with his dad and his family. And the plan was, I've got to build this class. He goes, I've been committed for a while. We waited for the 25 guys to sign and get settled. He goes, now I got to build this class. He said, look, I know Austin's home. It's my time. Now it's my turn to convince others. And I love how Texas is strategic when it comes to this. They brought in all these big offensive linemen just so they could get closer. Dia Bell took a picture with every O-lineman prospect at Junior Day because you never know who's going to be blocking that backside. And he built a relationship with a lot of those guys. Some of those guys he's already been talking to anyway, like a Felix Ojo and those sorts. And definitely John Turntine. And so Dia Bell wanted to submit himself and make sure that, hey, we got this. We need to build this. He just gets it. He understands it. There's a lot of Arch Manning recruiting wise in this recruitment, in this prospect. He just understands I've got to get the guys around me, the big boys. He didn't just sell the offensive lineman. He had Jaden Osborne, a guy. He was in his ear constantly. He was definitely talking up some of the receivers and other guys. And so Dia Bell was doing what a leader of a class does. He came early, he worked hard, and he left late. And that's kind of I think that's kind of the vibe and the mantra for this 2025 cycle early on.
We'll keep on going. Charlie, you were able to catch up with one of the more unique prospects or cover a little bit one of the more unique prospects, and that's Jermaine Bishop from Willis, Texas. So
Willis
must have been a target for DJ Lagway.
He was. Michael Bishop's cousin.
Yeah. What were some of the big takeaways you saw from him, and what is his game presented? Because I feel like he may look a little bit different than some of the other prospects Texas typically recruits, but he brings some fantastic athleticism.
Man, you talking about a dynamic player on either side of the football, and he's open to playing offensive defense. That's one of the things most people don't know. They think he's maybe pigeonholed to playing receiver or DB, but he can do both. I know it was mentioned. I know Eric said something funny on Monday about we had 2 Travis Hunters on campus, him and Mr. Lott, but I mean, Jermaine Bishop is that. He's a talented athlete who can play on either side of the football. So it was good to just kind of get him in the fold and get him on campus this past Saturday for Junior Day, so he can kind of see Texas envision where they want to play him and things like that. And so I think it's huge. Anytime you get an incredible athlete on campus like that, who's potential 5-star ability, I think it's just a win-win all the way around. And so he sees the development, he sees the close relationship that they have on campus and through the players that's currently there in this recruiting class. Like you said, the bell was on everybody. He's a leader. He's a leader already of this 26th class, and he talked to everybody. And Mr. Bishop was a part of that.
Probably. You understand the thing about Bishop too. Texas loves him at corner, and I think his future. He's got a lot of Curtis Brown to me. I think he could play either side of the ball in college, but the path to the league might be at corner, and that's one of the reasons he started playing corner a couple of years ago was to get on the field a little bit quicker.
Yeah.
Texas is recruiting him as an athlete. Chris Jackson's the one that came to see him at Willis last week. And he actually spent time in both rooms. He spent time with Terry Joseph with the corners, and he spent time with Jackson and the receivers. That, to me, puts Texas squarely in the driver's seat. If they were to pigeon-toe him, similar to how they handled Michael Terry III early in his recruitment, I think that thing would have gone a little bit sideways. They told him, look, we love you at athlete. We're just going to figure out when you get there. Look, out of all the talent in 2026 in Texas, Jermaine Bishop might be pound for pound the most talented. He's got some Terry Busty to his game. This kid is a multi-sport kid. However, he's not running track this year. He told me he is taking a time off of track so that he can focus on football. But I think this last Junior Day really cemented his place with Texas. They're going to be in it the whole way.
When you're 155 pounds, like he's listed at on 3, hey, you might need to get up a little bit more at that point just to try to.
That's what he's doing. He wants to add some of that weight, and he's got the right mindset going into it. I don't think college coaches want to hear that you're not running track, but with Jermaine Bishop, I think it'll be okay.
Yeah,
because he was born fast.
What was thinking about that corner class? In the corner prospects, they have, it seems like we know who the top wide receiver targets are, but it seems corner is a little bit more amorphous, but it looks also like one of the guys that you're a huge fan of, Justin, had a good time at Texas Junior Day from Waco Connolly.
Oh, Waco Connolly. Okay. I'm going to give you the top 3 of the corners on that big board for all you guys. And I'll give you the rest of them at InsideTexas.com. Jalen Lott's number 1. He's a corner. I know he's listed at wide receiver. He could play wide receiver. Jalen Lott is number 1 on that board. Jermaine Bishop's number 2. They love what that guy can do. I see some Deion Beasley in his game. Like, I really, really like what he does on that side of the field. Number 3 is Jamarian Vincent, and that is probably your nickel star take. Like, this kid is long, 6'3". He's skinny too. He's probably 160, 165. He could use some of that offseason stuff as well, but that's another fantastic prospect. And they have so many ties to Connolly right now in Waco, from Trey Wisner to Jelani McDonald to Kobe Black.
Yeah.
He's friends with all those guys. He looked up to Kobe big time. Jelani too. Jelani was the quarterback the year before. Vincent moved into quarterback. And so that recruitment with Jalen Lott, I think Texas leads by a good margin, but he is getting bombarded. I think Georgia offered him yesterday. He's going to get every big offer in the game.
Yes.
Bishop's going to take the distance. I think Texas is in a great spot. That Jamarian Vincent, I don't think will take long at all. I think just a slight shove would push him into this class. I think the number is 3 right now at corner. That could change, but they love those 3 right there: Jalen Lott, Jermaine Bishop, and Jamarian Vincent. And Vincent, I think, fits kind of in that big nickel type of frame, because he's just so long and so athletic. Like I said, multi-sport kid, plays basketball. Go watch him hoop. He does a great. Coach Snell does an amazing job at Connolly with those guys, and I like watching their highlights because they've always got somebody that can fly, and they always play amazing defense. And so I like where Vincent and Texas are. I like where Texas stands. All their top 3 targets at corner. It's just gonna, and I love especially with Jalen Lott, but Vincent's the one that I think a slight push puts him in this class.
That's a good point.
Last one to talk about before we go to some more higher level stuff. Justin, Javian Osborne, what were some big takeaways for him? He may be the top back for Texas in this cycle.
Oh, he is the top back. I wrote about that at InsideTexas.com this morning, kind of a piece in the intel about running back dominoes. And I think it's important because with Xavier Crowell, the big boy out of Alabama, reclassifying from 27 to 26, that's changed the order a little bit. One thing it didn't change was the priority status of Javian Osborne. That's number one. Everyone else is waiting in for what he does. And, I asked Javian, I said, dude, you've been here a dozen times. What stands out this time compared to the past? He said, this time he interacted with a ton of players. And he was really impressed with just how much of a brotherhood those players are in the locker room. He said the running back room, two of the guys helping out at junior day were Ricky Stewart Jr. and James Simon. Those guys have been enrolled for a whole 2 weeks in Austin, but they're already helping. They're already contributing to guys. He loves Trey Wisner. He loves that. He talked about that toughness and attitude, that Wisner is kind of the leader in that running back room now, and that he's kind of taken on that role. Loves CJ Baxter, getting to know Jarrett Gibson. Javian Osborne can see himself playing at Texas. And I think it'll be a summer decision for you guys that are wondering about that. He'll take OVs in June, Texas, Michigan, maybe Georgia, maybe SMU. That's a school that's you really need to watch. If you listen closely, they talk well about SMU, but I think it's Texas to lose. And so with Javian, he just loved hanging out with the players. He's like, man, these guys, it's not just how cool the coaches are. The guys are cool. He goes, you can just tell everyone wants to be there. There's like an alignment, an energy there. And that's just that man. That's Javian Osborne. Listen, we're going to continue you need to get used to that guy's name because he is muy importante in this class of 2026.
Before we keep going, let's go to a couple questions. This one may be tough to answer, but this kind of feeds into what I wanted to talk about. Who is the next to commit? Like we said, some of these kids may already know. Some may want to get this process done already. But Charlie, it seems like the next step that most take is one more spring visit, whether for like a practice or another junior day or a spring game, and then their official visit. So there's still kind of two, what's it called? Furlongs, whatever it's called. 2 milestones, basically, mile markers. 2 more points where these recruits still have to venture to before they really start getting into this. And you can have decisions on those times, but we still got a little ways to go before the bulk of the class starts making decisions.
Yeah, I agree. Most of these kids want to take their official visits and hear everybody out, hear every school that's recruiting them out. Sometimes you get to that point too. You wanted so many offers, now you got them, and then you got to tell somebody no, right? And so you'll get to that point and kind of weed them out from there. Unless some kids overzealous is like, you know what? I know where home is. Like it's a DLB, I know where home is. I'm going to go ahead and jump in this class. You can get that by surprise, but I think most of these kids will take their time, hear everybody out, and then make a decision based on that. One thing I really noticed that the parents being super involved, they want to make sure these kids make the decision for themselves, but they want to make sure they hear all the information from every school to make sure they have the best fit. And so I think that everybody would take their time and kind of go through those, spring visits and then official visits and make a decision after that.
I think last one to end on, another good question from Sonny V, and I'll throw this to you, Justin. Any chance the Longhorns look for a specialty short yardage running back, a monster that can get just 2 falling down? I take it that means in the high school class, because if that was in the portal, you probably would have seen them look for it. And we've heard what Tashard Choice believes about his room right now. I am wondering what your thoughts are on this, because that's a pigeonholing Tashard Choice doesn't seem typically like he wants to do.
Yeah, there's no specialty spots on a Texas roster. There's good recruitments, but there's every kid brings their own skill set. But this isn't this. I'll help you out with this one, Sonny. Some people have been asking, are they going to go in the portal for a running back? Because in the spring, there's just not a lot of bodies back there. If you think about it, even if they do, it would be in the post-spring window. But right now, to my knowledge, what I've been told, they're not going to add another running back. So they feel really good with what they've got going into 2025 right now. They've got what you've asked for, Sonny. They've got one. He's a baby rhino, and he just played his freshman year at Texas at about 215, and he looked great when he got his opportunities And so that's going to be your specialty short yardage back. And you talking about, you know what they need? They need a Cody Johnson. They need a Henry Melton, a guy that when they get down there at 1st and goal on the 1 against Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl, they just hand the pill to Big Boy and tell him to eat a yard. And that's what Jarrett Gibson's going to be. I think he's going to fit into that role. As for the 2026 cycle, they're going to get a speedster, and they want to get a bigger back. And Xavier Crowell would be a perfect goal line type back. And Amari Latimer, who Tashard Choice went to see yesterday out of Sandy Creek in Tyrone, Georgia. That's another guy that could fit in that short yardage kind of guy. They don't necessarily need a specialty guy. They just need a big boy that can run between the tackles. And what we saw in 2024, they need one on 1st and goal. Because there was a few times this last season where that seemed to bite them a little bit. That would have been C.J. Baxter's role 100%. And if he's healthy, I think that's a guy that helps with red zone woes and gets you that 1 or 2 yards when you're near the goal line. But Texas will never go just specialty. They're going to spread that out a little bit more. I think Keelan Robinson was probably the last take that was in that specialty type category. You could probably put Silas Bolden in that as well. But at running back, no. They've got one on campus already. That's the baby Rhino. And when C.J. Baxter gets healthy, he's going to be another one as well.
Love that. 36 good minutes of recruiting talk. Of course, got to head to Inside Texas. We'll have stuff, reaction from that junior day. We've got tons of intel up already, so make sure you head to Inside
Antoine
Texas.
asked about Jet Walker. Great athlete. Texas went to see him a couple days ago. Before the last week, great athlete. I don't see him in Texas class.
There we go. You can get stuff like that on Inside Texas, so make sure you head to InsideTexas.com. And, of course, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel. Our guy James Hayden will be back tonight for the call-in show, and we will have our normal Wednesday with Ian Boyd and Texas Homer, and we'll have Wednesday Night Live. So stay tuned. We'll have a lot on this channel. Thank you for watching. Thank you to Game Time, and we'll see you next time on the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel, powered by InsideTexas.com.